Welcome to another AMA with Kadena Ecosystem. In this episode, we'll be speaking with the team from Kadena AI. This conversation was recorded on June 14th, 2023, live on Twitter Spaces. The views and expressions in this AMA do not represent the views of Kadena Ecosystem directly and are not to be considered as financial advice. Please make sure to do your own research on the projects presented. Also, make sure to follow and subscribe to our account to be alerted of new uploads. Now let's get started. Enjoy. Welcome everybody to another AMA with Kadena Ecosystem. Today we have joining with us Kadena AI. It is a new platform on the Kadena Ecosystem brought to you by an amazing developer named Amir. And we're going to be learning all about it today. So welcome, Amir. Why don't we just start with a little introduction about yourself and what Kadena AI is all about?
Sure. Thanks for having me again. And really, I think what we envision for kind of all of our platforms, all of our tools is to really simplify the creation experience. It's one thing to be able to technically understand how an NFT works. It's another thing to deploy them. Obviously, it gets easier over time. But what we're really missing are the tools to just make it easy, right? So that people can walk up with zero experience. They don't need to understand all the complexity that goes into it. You still have to be able to make an image, right? There's those simple requirements. Even that, I would argue, we try to do our best to make that easy. But really, from start to finish, giving quality tools that anybody can walk up and use. And I don't think it's any one platform, any one marketplace that can consume it. The idea behind it is anybody can use these tools, right? If you want to go mint on Hypercent, for example, you should be able to do that. If you want to mint on Isoko, you should be able to do that. If you want to mint on, our community marketplace, you should be able to do that, right? And it shouldn't be difficult. It's almost like at the through a continuation of efforts, feedback, and working with others. I feel like we've addressed a large gap that kind of exists in our ecosystem today. And the first tool specifically is I call it Kadenai, but you can call it whatever you want. Obviously, it's playing off of the AI part, which I will talk about why I chose that. It was intentional. It wasn't a buzzword. I do have plans for that, and I'll be happy to share those. But really, taking it a step back, the generator to me is where it starts. And if you want to be able to put quality artwork together, that's got to be an easy process. And I really do appreciate everybody who's giving time, sweat equity on this one. And really, I feel like we came up with a pretty good product here. And it's meant to be you'll hear this a lot. It's meant to be a community tool. It's not meant to be a paywalled tool. It's meant so that anybody can walk up, in this case for a generator, and put your image layers in there. And at the end of it, you'll have a collection of NFTs. You can have one NFT. You can have 10,000 NFTs. I really wouldn't try to do too many more than that. I don't think that any web tools are really made to handle, once you start going over that number. But really, making it step by step. There's no confusion. You go from step 1 to step 2 and have a very, very easy introduction. We've also put a simple link on the site so that you can use our pre-generated artwork, so that you can kind of go through the whole form, experience it yourself, and then at the end of it, you can download what you've created. And I think that's important, right? That's very important. If you're going to be using these tools for bigger collections, you really want to understand how they work, even if they're simple. Having those dry runs, I feel, is important. And actually, as I've gone through it, we've probably added a lot of features, taken features out. But really, while Marmalade's kind of going through its transition, I feel like launching this platform ahead of time, getting more eyes on it. I don't know that there's any type of giveaways that would be involved in something like this. It's more of a, please just come use it, test it, give us feedback. And that's kind of where the foundation begins for what we're building.
Awesome. It's definitely something that is well needed in the community, because there's lots of people out there that want to create NFT collections and things like that, but just don't really have the technical technical knowledge to be able to execute it properly, especially on something that's new, as opposed to like Pact and Kadena and Marmalade. Is there's probably a lot less guides and things out there than there would be for launching NFT collections on some of the other more known blockchains like Ethereum or Solana or stuff like that. So it's definitely making those taking those steps and making them as easy as possible for people is one of the things I've always say is the only way we're going to pick up mass adoption of Kadena is making things as turnkey easy as possible for people to come in and build upon the blockchain. So it's great to hear that you're taking initiative to build these things. Now, what just out of curiosity, what brought you to Kadena? What was the thing that made you decide, I want to learn Pact, I want to learn Marmalade, and I want to start building on top of this blockchain?
I feel like after about a year of diving into Solidity, really seeing, I was more interested in developing on Ethereum initially, and I think that makes sense, right? There's just a massive pool there, and that's good and bad. Right, there's not a good or a bad for me. It was a good learning experience. It was, I understand their smart contract language. There's a lot of tools that I really enjoyed using that I've come to create myself or others have created, kind of in the community, and I want to continue seeing that kind of grow. And through that process, I started looking at other opportunities of, okay, this market is oversaturated, and really, it was the peak of the gas wars, right? And the gas prices they weren't just crazy. I mean, you could probably, mortgage your home and pay less back in bank fees than it would have done to make a dollar transaction on Ethereum at one point. And so when you think about that, it's like, I don't really want to be beholden to that. So I quickly started researching other blockchains. I think there's a lot of good ones out there. I just happened to stumble across, I taken a look at ICP and really just kind of came to really enjoy writing code in Pact. And they say it's human readable. I mean, you can walk up and understand virtually anything in there if you've developed before. And I think that's really powerful. There's a lot of things that are really good, that I really enjoyed. And I had a couple of friends in my ear as well that were looking at it at the time. So that didn't hurt either. And so for me, kind of my journey started somewhere else. It landed me here, and at the end of it, I'm happy to continue learning Pact, to continue improving the tooling where I can, and I think there's a great opportunity there. Unfortunately, being in such a down market, it really does strain everybody a little bit. But I think when we come out of it, the efforts that a lot of people are doing quietly, I think that people will start to see them and recognize them and appreciate them. Because there was no money grab here, right? The people who are building right now are just doing it because they enjoy it. Some are doing it because it's their hobby, their business. And I think that community, that ecosystem is one I'd rather be a part of than watching 1,000 meme coins get launched every day. My goal would be to see Kadena launch 1,000 meme coins, every day, because we've got so much on-chain activity and liquidity. So I think for me, it to stay here was a natural fit. That doesn't mean I haven't explored other chains, but for now I'm happy. I'm happy with the small group. I'm happy with that I work with. I'm happy with the community that I get to interact with, and so for me, it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, we're kind of in a special place right now with Kadena. Like you said, when someone wants to build, for example, on Ethereum, you're really building. You're such a small fish in such a large pond that is just oversaturated with so many other projects. And pretty much, if you can think about it, it's probably already been done on Ethereum, since Ethereum's been around for quite a while now and has had, a large community push, had a lot of development on its chain, and is still constantly developing. That, we're kind of at a special spot with Kadena, almost like we're in the very early stages of what Ethereum used to be when it first kind of forked away from its original chain and became kind of the first iteration of what it was before it switched over to proof of stake. Now, was that also one of the things that kind of drove you towards Kadena? Was the fact that it is a secure proof of work blockchain, and not just a secure proof of work blockchain, but also one of the few that has actually solved the whole scaling issues and things like that. Was that one of the biggest draws, or was it just kind of the whole, learning something new and just diving into something that's new and unique?
I'll probably get myself in a lot of trouble for saying this, and I know somebody on the call is probably about to roll his eyes, but I think you probably nailed it on the head when you come in and you see the 20 chain setup or 10 chain setup as it was before, and start looking at, what is it going to take to scale this? I think in my mind it sounded really cool. Like, I'm like, man, this is innovative. We've got all these chains, they communicate together. And then I realized after I started developing, and I'm like, well, okay, I'm like kicking the door a little bit. I'm like, let's talk a little bit more chains. And so you come to realize it's still, there's still some work to be done there, right? And I think that's pretty well known. The cross-chain experience, I think there's an opportunity there. I don't think it's a negative. You can view it that way. You can view it as a positive, but I view it as a big positive. Somebody will come in and figure it out. Whether it's the Kadena team themselves or another group, they'll come in and figure something out. It always happens, right? Maybe some type of bridge layer 2 kind of comes in and helps us, obfuscate the chains and allows for those fast transactions. But I think the bigger thing for Kadena in my mind isn't necessarily the speed of the network. It's the security. You've got some good and some bad with that, right? It creates a challenge when you're a developer new into the ecosystem. You quickly understand what caps are, and that's a powerful difference, right? There's a big difference when you start talking about chains like Ethereum and how Pact is different, right? And how it was built with more security in mind. Well, that costs overhead. I don't think there's anybody who would argue that. And that overhead's okay. It's not a bad thing. It may not work for, low latency applications or certain DeFi applications, but that's what layer 2s are for, right? And that's obviously, something that's been in the works for a while. And who knows what'll come of that. I think just time will tell. They do take a lot of time and effort. So for me, I'm excited to kind of see how everything evolves, but also, jumping into this ecosystem, some of it sounds a little better. Some of it you find is actually better. The cross-chain stuff, as anybody who's talked to me knows, doesn't give me headaches so much as I think if you view Kadena, it has 20 chains, it can scale. Now let's see it scale. I don't think we're there yet, though. I don't think we need to be. I think that each chain itself still has a lot of room to grow before we're concerned about scaling. And I think that's important too, right? When you're thinking about, should I develop something just to develop it? Or should I develop something because we need it? My hope is that it's developed and solved before we need it, if that makes sense. And that's the opportunity, right? That's a big opportunity that most chains can't say because they're single threaded. They never took the time to evaluate that. Maybe they were just so new at the time, it just wasn't a concept that needed to be researched. We're lucky that it was included, even if some days, I wish everything could happen on one chain with NFTs, but there's an opportunity there, right? There's an opportunity to do something unique that almost no other chain can talk about.
Yeah, it's definitely unique, and I can kind of attest to what you're saying about the fact that, it's great having these 20 chains, but as it stands at this exact moment, the way I kind of look at it is pretty much 20 L1s stacked on top of each other is pretty much what Kadena is. And until they kind of find a way to actually web them together the way they keep calling it chain web, until they find a way to make it so that it doesn't, what chain you're on doesn't matter, or, there's some kind of interoperability between all of the chains, automatically on a protocol side or on a layer 2 kind of side, that there is definite room for improvement. But they've built that foundation, which is the most important part, I feel, is having the foundation of the chains, showing they did go from 10 to 20, so they're showing that they can. It is a very good proof of concept. but there is lots of growth to happen and lots of things. And it all just comes down, you never know, either maybe, the Kadena team's been doing a large push to get a lot of more developers on board. We're seeing a lot more people getting interested in developing on Kadena through Pact and stuff. So, that kind of stuff will most likely come in the future. And it would just be kind of nice if it came sooner than later. But, it is what it is. And it is something that does make us stand out from the crowd. So as we branch out more and more people get excited about it, I'm sure a lot of those things will come through and be built. And I'm not too worried about that. Let's talk maybe about what your thoughts on Marmalade are, and what you see as like the very high features, aspects that are really solid, and the things that really make you excited about Marmalade, and the things that you would like to see maybe be changed or updated in hopefully what is the next version that the team is working on.
That's a great question, and it's something I've spent a lot of time kind of reviewing Marmalade itself, V1, what I consider V1, and then Marmalade, what I consider V2. And I can tell you, it's upgrading us to the point where we're competitive with other chains now. And I mean that, right? So the power of having off-chain metadata, the power of linking contracts, cascading contracts, and being able to build whatever you want. I'd say within reason, right? You don't want to go too deep, because then it doesn't become supportable. And it's a very, you get too specific of a use case. But Marmalade V2 takes a lot of the, I'd say, good concepts from V1. It's still, as I understand it, still will allow you to write your metadata on chain, which a lot of people like. I personally prefer it off chain, and I'll tell you why. Once we can take our metadata and images off chain, it makes it very easy, and it plays into what we were just talking about. It makes it very easy for me to now create a mint and burn process on chain 2, on chain 3, whereas before I have to physically lift and shift on chain data, which is not easy, right? There's no easy process. It all has to happen off chain. So if we're going to take it off chain anyways, I've got CDN networks that are capable of really enhancing what an NFT is. And that's not something that we can do on chain. And so I think from a development standpoint, they've made it very easy from an NFT standpoint. The contracts do take a little bit of time to kind of learn, but you've got things like enforcing royalties, and truly enforcing those royalties. If you try to pass an NFT that has a royalty contract, you're not going to be able to at least easily bypass it, right? It's locked in. It's locked into your NFT. There's no way to unlock that, which is a good thing. That's really good to have that lock in. We're going to have the ability to reverse look up a collection. So today I have to index Marmalade and then do my best effort. I'm very similar to what you guys have to do and some of the others who are running explorers and wallets. And we have to do our best to make sure that collection names match NFTs. On Marmalade V2, we can do a reverse lookup and get that data if people use a collection policy. I mean, that's one of the things that I've talked to the team probably the most about, getting as much feedback as I could and testing that as much as I can, because from a marketplace standpoint, to have this data, to have it available on-chain and off-chain easily, makes it a lot easier now. We don't have to worry about those types of things. We can really work on our products versus working on bad data or difficult data to work with. And I think that starts with the Kadena team has put out a number of documents out on GitHub. I know there's going to be more articles, more Medium articles. I'm confident that they're going to be putting more of that out. And if not, a lot of us will chip in, right? That's a community effort as well. And really taking what I would consider a unique, Marmalade V1's a unique standard. We chose to do it differently, right? And that's okay. That's a good thing to try different things. What I consider version 2 is like the big brother to it now. And now we can do things like GameFi, right? We can put in policies that are that can be modified, right? I can take your sword from a +1 and make it a +2, and I don't have to create a new NFT for you anymore. there were ways to do it before, just very, very convoluted and difficult. But now, the team's letting us use a standard that we can all use, but also put our spin on it. And I think that's where you'll see more use cases come up, where games can find success on Kadena. If you've got a really good game developer, people will follow. There's no question. If you take gas, that evil gas word, if you take that out of the equation and you say, hey, instead of paying $100 a day in gas fees, I can give you it for 20 cents, right? You may start seeing more adoption in the things that bring people. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that's where I see a lot of it. People love, little games, things to get hooked. Artwork is good. There's a place for that, but I think when you want more adoption, you're going to see it with utility. You're going to see it with games, and I think I'll speak to it again. The Isoga team recently, with their launches, that's a bigger focus, and I think it's great. I think it's great for the ecosystem, and I think it's going to play great into kind of how V2 works and operates.
Yeah, I've always been saying that one of the main things that I think really makes Marmalade and everything stand out is the option to be able to upgrade the metadata without having to remint an NFT or anything like that, which makes all types of amazing stuff possible. Like you said, if you have a game where you have a weapon or something like that, you can increase the stats and you can change the stats and things like that without having to do a whole reminting process or anything like that, which kind of led me to today they had their Kadena campfire, and they were talking about different ways that NFTs could be used. And I actually originally thought of this idea when I was speaking with the folks over at Teller about how they're building an Oracle system to be able to pull information from a blockchain and on different things. And the first thing that came to my mind was with Kadena NFTs, it would be a perfect place for like a card company like Topps, or ones that do like basketball or baseball cards and things like that. If they could put their collections as Kadena NFTs, link that to an Oracle that then you buy. So like you buy like a LeBron James card or something like that, and the stats update automatically after every game pulled from an Oracle. And something like that is really only possible through a system like Marmalade.
I think so. And I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, and I don't want to jump too much, but when you think about data, everything we do is data. The blockchain's data, right? It's a ledger. Programming, it's all data manipulation. So once you can take that data, what do we do with it? And one of the I think if there's anything that I personally feel I'll contribute the most to, at least to helping move this along, is that Oracle standpoint. And I don't think it's in Oracle. Oracles by nature can be very simple or very, very complex, right? Just like blockchains, you can do copy paste of Ethereum, or you can do something new, right? Like's been done here. And when you think about data, we have these, I'd say, much better explorers where, those are basic things, basic tenets of a blockchain, to have visual explorers, to have these tools. I don't want an explorer personally. I have no interest in building an explorer, so I'm glad you guys are handling that. But what I am interested in is data. And so I have a data feed, and there's a few folks, maybe some people on here, who've seen it. And I put a face to it, right? I like to do that. I like to make something, a POC, and then put a really simple face on it so you can kind of get an idea of what it can do. And from that conversation I have with people, I will start to work on what is it really gonna, what did I miss? What else can I do with this? And that feedback's been invaluable for me. But really, we talk about, I talk to a lot of people about Discord bots. I love them. I love building them. I've built a number of them now for people. They're pretty easy to interact with Kadena. So I do recommend people check. I've got a repo out there somewhere on GitHub. I'll probably link it again on Twitter at some point, so that you can ingest that data, right? So if you want to connect your wallet to Discord, pull all your NFTs or pull a specific collection, let's say, you need it for validation. I want to be able to hand somebody that data feed instead of them having to generate it themselves. And some will, but when you think about, like what Morales does, at the end of the day, I may not want to go that far. We don't have the ecosystem to support that at this time, but if we do, I want to be ready for it. And so when I'm building intentionally. and I'm building things that anybody can use. And so that, I think that one, when more comes out on that, I think that will interest a lot of the current projects, and anybody coming into the ecosystem will get a head start because they don't have to worry about their data. They can use indexed blockchain data through an Oracle, through an API, and really make their Web3 journey easier. And that should help developers more than anything. And that's one of the things that it's in testing right now. It's live. It's just in a test environment with mainnet data. So I'm testing that on mainnet and kind of excited to see and give more updates on that one.
Yeah, that's definitely something I see because I've been in some other NFT spaces on some other protocols, and that's definitely something you see a lot, especially when you get involved with Discord, is those bots where it opens up a website, you just connect your wallet to it, and it reads that you own X amount of that certain collections NFTs, and then automatically gives you a certain role in their server. And that's something that I've heard a lot of the projects I've spoken to in Kadena that have vibrant Discord communities is something that they've definitely been wanting to see happen, and something that I feel like the moment it is released, it's just going to get, people are just going to jump all over it, because it definitely is, like I said, it's very something that's very common in the NFT space across different protocols, but just like you said, we don't really have the largest community yet to really have a necessity for all of these certain tools. Now, going back to your NFT minting generator, let's maybe just kind of start off with a basic kind of rundown of, let's say that I used to do an NFT collection on a different protocol. I have all my layers done, I have all my artwork done, and I want to bring this to Kadena. Can you maybe just kind of go through the steps for how someone would do something like that?
Absolutely. It's using a very common approach that I've seen, where you lay out your different layers in folders. So you have a head folder, you have I have a skin folder, I have a background folder, and then I put my various images in those folders. And when you go to the website, you've got all that laid out. You go to the website, you upload your folder, which then maps everything out to traits. So you've got different traits, you've got different layers that are in those, different traits that are in those layers. And from there, you can start your collection process. So you've uploaded your images. It's in a folder structure. You select the only things I require are a collection name, a description, and an image format. So you can do, like, if my images were called AI, for Kadenai, I would probably just do Kadenai, and it would be Kadenai 1, Kadenai 2. So it kind of auto-iterates for you. So those are the three things that you're required to do. The next step, once you set that, and I should probably slow down because not everybody has seen it. And so in that process that I'm explaining right now is where you set up all your different metadata attributes. So if there's anything not related to image layers, that's where you're going to set it. So there's things like websites, external URLs. If you want to add MP4s to your collection, things like that, you can add all that right through the web form. They're not required, but they are things that will get written to your metadata file if you want them to. And so once you kind of collected all that, you've got your initial collection name, you've set a description and image, you'll go through the form. The next page is just a top-down layer page. So what you do is you drag and drop your different layers. So I always pick my background layer to be first. If you have a folder called background, it'll always default that to the top. And so you'll always have that canvas to work from. So your background will always be in the background. And then you start adding your layers. I add my body, I add my head, I add skin colors, I add shirts, things, different things. If you have jewelry, you just kind of layer them on like you normally would. And once you're satisfied with that, I do have a preview button. I've disabled it for now, just to keep the resources down a little bit while we're testing. But really, so that people can see, you can see in real time what an NFT might look like, right? It's a random preview. It'll take a list, it'll take your list of traits and layers, and it'll show you right then and there. And so you can scroll through that list and just see a bunch of different iterations of what your NFT will look like. And that's a good thing. That's good so that you can real time modify your layers if you don't like how something looks. Once you're satisfied with that, you go to the next page, which is weights. So I do a percent weighted system versus you can do it a couple different ways where you do shares, weights, percents, and really, let's say I want more blue eyes than brown eyes. So I'm going to give my blue eyes a higher weight. Now that doesn't mean if I have 100 NFTs, I set 50 eyes to blue, 25 to brown and 25 to green. It's a percent, so it's randomized. You don't know for sure. You just know that there's a higher probability that you'll have more blue eyes at this point, and especially when you're weighting it like that. I think it keeps it's a better way to do it, and that's just an opinion. Let's say you go through that list. You can modify every trait you have, and I do recommend that. Right, if you want to create rarity, you can create your own rarity right from that page. And then once you're done with that, you hit generate. You go to the next page and you hit generate. It takes you, it shows you a preview of the generation process, and then you're ready to download your collection. That whole process that I just explained for I don't know how many minutes probably takes somebody who's done it before 30 seconds to go start to finish to have a collection generated. If you don't want to make any layer changes, if you're happy with how it all looks, take you about 30 seconds to walk through that tool. Start to finish. And I have videos on the website just going a little slower and making changes to kind of back that. So when I talk about it's easy to use, that's what I mean. It's intended to be very simple, even if I made it sound a little more complex.
No, I pretty much got the whole concept right from start to finish. And I love the whole idea of being able to weight your layers and weight your traits, because that is how people would make, for example, like your one of ones and special things like that. It's definitely it's one of the things that I'm sure a lot of people who are wanting to maybe create an NFT collection are like, well, how does that work? How do you go about keeping it randomly generated, but still, keeping certain parameters tied within certain features? So that's really awesome to hear. And now this has only been live for like a couple of weeks or so. Have you had a lot of people testing? And if not, how can people get involved in trying this out and helping you test these things?
So this one is sitting at Kadenai.com, Kadenai.com. And I have it on my Kadenai art Twitter, and I will tweet out after this. It's going to step up a little bit. So the site itself, I'm happy if anybody wants to go there. It should load moderately fast. It is intended to be a development environment. That's like between a beta and an alpha at this point. But really my goal for this week was to have it launched into an official beta, and I'm on track for that. And so I don't want to drive too much. There's only 2 things left. I have contracts. It's a silly thing, but I have smart contracts that allow you to donate, right? Because I don't want to charge for this, but I do know others have offered to kind of help me pay at least for the hosting piece of it. And so what I've chosen to do was I took out any kind of payment contract out of this tool. It's completely free to use, and I encourage people to use it for free. I will support it as long as I can. But again, the donation piece, I think it highlights something interesting about Pact, and when we're talking about the 20 chains, it will let you, when you go in there and you donate, it will pick the chain that has the highest balance for you. You can change it, right? But I allow you to make a decision, and I have a smart contract deployed to 20 chains, and I have some orchestration that happens on the back end that presents me a one-chain view of donations and who is sending them and from where. I don't care where they come from. I just know when I'm presenting my data back to you to show you who, how often we're getting donations, what that looks like, how we're spending that money, which is going towards hosting at this point. I think it's kind of cool to be able to walk into a site, not have to worry about what chain you're on. And if you've got all your funds on chain 18, I don't care. It's going to look up chain 18 balance. It's going to say, oh, you've got 20 KD on this chain, send it to this chain. There's no cross chain. There's no need for that. And I think that's one of the things that I think you're going to start seeing more of. I plan on giving that code out that I used, so that anybody could implement it into their apps, where you can have a selector choose what chain automatically. And I'll credit both Raul from working with Lynx for helping kind of give me a really solid design for this site. Him and I talked early on, and he was kind enough to offer his services. And Alex from Hypercent, who helped me get some really cool modals and kind of nail that concept down of how we can visually display a very simple payment, but on Kadena, it's 20 chains. So I think that's what I want people testing right now. It's on testnet, but by Friday, that's going to be on mainnet. Contracts are all ready to go. Just doing a couple more tests. I don't want people to have any issues when we're on mainnet. And really from there, I think by Friday, I'll send out an announcement, if not sooner, and we'll be ready to officially beta. I've had, on average, 12 unique visitors go through this process every day for the last 2 weeks. So for what it's worth, there's some utilization. It's not too bad, and I've gotten some really, really good feedback so far, at least on issues. I like that kind of feedback so I can fix things before it goes live.
Yeah, that's always a very important step in the development process, is letting people get their hands on it and let them try to break it and see where the cracks are and things that you can tweak just to not only make it a more easy flow and a more secure flow, but also taking into account things that you may not have thought of, that other community members are like, hey, that'd be really cool if you put this step in here, or if you tweak this step so that it brought up this kind of result. And, reaching out to other community members are really the best way to do that for the people, because there's no use reinventing the wheel, right? There's people out there who have already built amazing code and amazing things on top of Kadena. So the more we can all work together to utilize these things and build new tools that benefit everyone is really the way to go. Now, I also noticed on your profile, like on your Twitter feed there, that there's a different thing called Mint on Kadena. Is Mint on Kadena different from the NFT generation program? And if so, what is the difference between the two?
So that I'm glad you brought that up, because that one is quickly approaching my second favorite project right now. I built a Minter for Marmalade V1. I chose not to release it because I knew V2 was in the works a couple months back. But really what it lets you do is, it's the first piece of what I consider, again, when we're talking about APIs, I can give this to anybody, any platform, and allow you to mint NFTs. It handles the IPFS uploads for you. It handles generating token IDs for you. And really it's meant to be very simple. I have a smart contract deployed to testnet that's connected to Marmalade V2 right now. And what was nice about it was, when we're talking about community and working together, Squeegee and I don't know, we probably obsessively talk too much, but that's a good thing in my opinion. He's one of, like, if you haven't heard his name, I'd be surprised, but he's a gem. And what he's helped me with was, I took a simple concept and I had put it out there, and a lot of people were really excited to see what a Minter would look like. And I said, I've got a simple web form. It looks kind of ugly. And sure enough, he took it and turned it into, a wallet connectable mint. And the idea for us was, I like the term one click. It's technically 2 clicks in the same place because it's 2 separate actions. But basically you put your image, you put your metadata, and then you hit mint, and that's it. And once it's done uploading your image to IPFS, it's done scraping IPFS, it's done writing your token name, you can then actually click the quote-unquote mint button, which will mint a token in real time to the Marmalade ledger. It's yours. I never intercept ownership. My contract is simply there for tracking purposes. I just like to track on-chain, make it real easy for myself to track what's going on. But anybody's welcome to use that tool. In fact, I encourage it. It's one of those tools that can introduce more bugs. So the more we get testing on something like that, so that it's ready to go when Marmalade V2 rolls out, I feel like it's ready to go. There's some things here or there to tweak. But all the testers, I've probably had 100 different unique 100 different unique wallets have hit it so far. I can't say that that's 100 unique people, because 7 or 8 of them were mine. But you get the idea. It's for our chain, it's been a little bit popular. I think every time somebody pops in and looks at it, it gives you an opportunity to not only mint, you can also go in and view what you've minted. So it's kind of once you've minted your token, you refresh, There's a wallet view where you can go in and see what you just minted. Koala Wallet would show it on mainnet, right? It's the process that the collections go through to mint you tokens. The difference is I'm letting you do it yourself. I don't need to be a middleman. I'm just giving you a little nice, easy page. And again, credit to Squeegee for that one. I feel like he did a really good job. And those are the kind of things that I plan on delivering back to the community so that any marketplace could use those. Whether I was in direct competition or not with somebody, I will give the tools to be able to do that, because I think it's the right thing to do. And it puts us a step closer to being more of a community tool focused chain. Like Ethereum has 1 million tools like that. Let's start somewhere. Let's get those tools out to everybody. They're not meant to be possessive. It does use my backend API to do all the logic, and I'm okay with that. And so I think there's an opportunity there to cross paths with others and work with them and deliver an exceptional experience where somebody else may want a different form. I also have a form that's meant where you can create your own metadata. You don't have to use a JSON file. You can just create, what you want. And that gives you the opportunity for utility, for locked things, like if you wanted to take an image of a ring, like we've seen others do, and really lock it down. There's a lot of use cases that can open up when we put that control in creators' hands. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can probably offer on that side is, again, it gives people the power to do it, not me, not you. Just people who want to use these tools, they just walk up and use them. There's no, hey, here's a paywall. No, some of it may have to be charged because there's costs with hosting all of it, but for the most part, it's as close to free as it can be.
Well, I have to say, Squiggy definitely did a very good job on the UI layout for the minting thing. I'm actually looking at it right now, and I'm almost like kind of tripped out on the way the word kind of has the background that flows around it, and it's got the little bar that goes all the way around the box. It's very well laid out, very on theme for Kadena. And speaking of Squiggy and those people, one thing that was announced recently is that you have joined the team over at Swarms. Do you maybe want to go into a little bit here as we're nearing the end, what your capacity is over at Swarms and some of the things you're most excited for working with their great team?
So I absolutely, and great. I'm glad you brought that up. And really, like I had said before, Squeegee and I had been working together on things probably quietly, because we were both kind of just, figuring out some things that maybe hadn't been done before on chain. And, you're not as public about those things, especially when you're learning through challenges. And so we got a really good opportunity to kind of work together, bounce ideas off each other, recommend the right dosage of ibuprofen every once in a while. And through that, I think the relationship was why don't we just work together on things? And there's things that I can do from a back-end standpoint that he equally does from a front-end standpoint and from a pack standpoint. And I think, instead of us working as solos, it gives us an opportunity to start working together. And my goal is to bridge that gap of tooling into DAOs. And so when I talk about integrations, you'll see everything I do is an integration, even if it's in my own platforms that I build. I build it modular and I build it as an integration. So my goal with Swarms, me personally, is to see us get to a point where, a DAO is formed. We can, at some point, not yet, at some point, we can control your contract through voting, if that's something that people want. But more importantly, I can tie governance and things like that into functions. So if I wanted to vote, we're gonna require a 5% fee on every transaction. Let's say we need to vote on that. The community comes in and votes, and we're gonna kick it down to 3%. I'd like to be able to handle that integration end to end, where you go on Swarms, create that proposal, and it updates it where it needs to. And I don't care where it lives. I don't care if it's in Web 2 space. I don't care if it's a smart contract. We'll be able to handle that layer for you and truly integrate a DAO, just like some of the big DAOs do. Really get that to where instead of just being a static tool for people, it can actually go in and do decisioning. And I think that's going to be really important going forward, especially with all the regulatory concerns, where we can offload a lot of that headache into a DAO, not transfer risk, but offload that headache and really make it something where you're not constantly having to go in and make the changes yourself. Because it's one thing to vote. It's another thing to make a change somewhere I'd like to be able to bridge that gap where both actions can happen simultaneously, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. It's just like I said, it's just another fine example of, you know, coming together with like-minded people to build the tools that everyone hopefully one day will be able to utilize, be it through swarms with their DAOs or be it through their own platforms with you making like these minting programs and things like that. Now, we mentioned the minting program, the generator, we mentioned a Discord bot. Is there any other kind of tooling that you are either working on or things that you would like to see start to get developed on Kadena that aren't readily available already?
So some people know I have an AI art generator today. It's just waiting for a front end where you can walk up via prompt and create your own artwork. That's again, in that capacity. Once you're done, you can one click mint those. And I think that's going to be a really cool project for our ecosystem. And there's going to be some cost with that one just because the process itself isn't free. But I'm working that out with others right now. That one's I'm really excited to finish that one up. Once I can find somebody who can build the front end for that. I just don't have the time at this point. There is a couple other tools that I don't really necessarily want to get into right now, but a lot of them are kind of just waiting on Marmalade v2. Again, everything's being fueled by a data layer that needs its data source, which is the Marmalade ledger. I need that before I can roll up too many more things. Otherwise, I get sucked into being stuck on Marmalade v1, which I do not want to do. I'd rather help people move to v2 and utilize my time that way. But there's you got it, the Minter. There's a couple variations of the Minter. There's a community. I call it a community marketplace. That's going to be somewhat DAO governed. So if you wanted to build a collection on there, you're going to have to vote on it, or it's going to have to be voted on. And so I think there's some unique things there that haven't been done yet, at least on our chain, that are going to require some thought and attention. So I think before I get too crazy with myself, I'll stick with those things that are known. They're all going to be coming out once Marmalade 2's official. There's going to be a lot more, and like I said, I don't shy away from integrations. The last one, I was just looking at the time. The last one is the smart wallet, and I've got a working smart wallet that requires multiple signatures to do an action, allows scheduling of payments. The only reason I'm not pushing that one right now is because of time. I've got the pack stuff done. I've got the back end in a good place. Again, Alex from Hypersense been helping me with the front end design for that. It looks phenomenal if anybody's seen it. It just looks like a traditional bank account where you basically are making ACH payments like on chase.com. He does such a good job as well in putting the crazy thoughts I have together on paper. That one to me is going to be a business opportunity for anybody who wants to do smart wallets. I think that one is going to be a really big effort in the next 12 months. I'm personally waiting for a standard before I push anything out. The last thing I want to do is have a splintered smart wallet that doesn't follow anybody else's code, even though I feel like what I've built is good. I'd rather be a team player on this one and work with others and make sure we've got a really good standard for the ecosystem first.
Well, when it comes to working with others, you definitely have a direct line with us at Eucalyptus Labs, and definitely do not hesitate to reach out to any of our devs for any help when it comes to building that, because we are as well moving towards smart wallets with Koala Wallet and bringing some of those new features into that. And I'm sure that our devs would love to maybe sit down and pick your brain on where you see them coming and the ways that we could all kind of help each other move into this next phase of wallet security. So that's very excellent to hear. And that's pretty much everything that I had written down to cover. Is there anything else or any kind of other alpha you maybe want us to talk about, or any topics we may have missed?
No, I think look out for Kadena.com is going to be getting released soon. If I can up my API throttling a little bit, I'll post where you can do a lot of different lookups right into Kadena, filter it yourself, and kind of just make that data your own. But I'm really focused this week on buttoning up a couple things with Kadenai, and I'm excited to start that journey and start delivering some of these tools as Marmalade gets closer. So I'll continue dropping them. They're just all kind of they're all at like 90%. I've got a lot of things that are at 90%. I'm just working on clearing them off one by one, and it feels really good to get these done.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see all the amazing tools that you've been working on in their final finished forms. I've been following along, seeing the things that you're doing. I'm definitely gonna have to give my hand at trying out the Minter and the generator myself, because they're very cool tools that I feel are going to be very important for many projects in the near future. And like I said, definitely keep up to date with us at Eucalyptus Labs. If you need any help with anything, do not hesitate to reach out. You have direct contact with all of us. So but it's been really great talking to you today, Amir, and learning more about the amazing stuff that you're working on. And hopefully, as you get more farther into your progress, we can have another AMA and catch up again and sometime soon.
I'd love to. I appreciate the time, and thank you everybody for joining. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming and joining us today and listening to this AMA. Make sure you guys go and follow Kadena AI on Twitter, and also make sure you guys follow Amir. If you find the Kadena AI account, you'll find Amir, because there's posts on all of them as well. Easy to follow and keep up to date with everything he's working on, because he's working on some amazing products. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming out and listening to us today, and catch you guys on the next AMA. Have a great day. Take care. That wraps up another amazing AMA. Thank you for listening. Here at Kadena Ecosystem, we strive to bring an open platform for projects being built on Kadena to present themselves to the community. Please ensure to do your own research on the projects before investing. Also ensure to follow us on our social media, from Twitter to subscribing to our weekly newsletter, to keep up to date on everything KDA related. You can find all the links in the description below. Take care.